welcome to After the 80 Local Edition. I'm your host Terry Pascoe, wearing this jersey reluctantly. On today's show we'll be reviewing round 17 of Rugby League Ipswich, catch up with the North's president Jason Brennan, and as per usual, everyone's favourite player profile. Joining me each and every week, Anthony Bomber Breeze, thank you.
No, good to be here and good to see you finally in the blue jersey. A bet's a bet, and thank you for wearing it.
That's right, a bet's a bet.
You're a winner.
We got to let you win occasionally.
Well, thank you very much.
A special guest on the panel this week is North's president Jason Brennan. Thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and I must say, Terry, blue does not look good on you.
No, it doesn't, does it? We've got to go maroon. Now, if you'd like to join the discussion, you can find us on Facebook. Just head to Phoenix Media Hub, like the page, and keep up to date with everything after the 80. Now, as I mentioned, president, what kind of role? So it's both. You're not just president of seniors; it's seniors and juniors. What kind of job does that entail?
It's quite a lot of work. I started off president of the juniors 4 years ago and took over the seniors last year. So for last year and this year, I've done both. It's a lot of work. I am lucky enough though to have good committees in both the juniors and seniors that lighten a lot of the workload for me. That enables me to be able to do both roles, because in the juniors we do have upwards of 32, 33 sides, plus running our senior comp as well. So there's a lot of parents to deal with and a lot of sort of players to deal with. So
How have you rated the season so far for your A-grade side? Sitting in third position?
Yeah, I'd rate it a pass. I mean, at the start of the season, I think every team just wants to make the finals. We've secured that now, mainly thanks to obviously the 6 points being taken away from Goodna. The top four's now stitched up. I think Fassifer and obviously are sort of scooting away with the minor premiership, but second spot's sort of open now. So for us now, moving into the last sort of 4 rounds, our main focus is obviously where we finish second, third, fourth in that top 4, whether you get that second bite at the cherry or whether you're playing sudden death semi-finals on the first week. So
is it, obviously the goal is to win the premiership, and obviously in all 3 grades, if you can do it, that's the holy grail. But would you say the main focus is on creating a great culture within all the players, juniors and then seniors?
Yeah, I think so. It's something that I've definitely focused on since I've taken over the seniors and the juniors. We've always been blessed with a lot of talent in our junior club since I've been involved with it especially. So there's always that progression of juniors coming through to seniors. The one thing that we probably didn't have really down pat a couple of years ago was that I guess the flow on from juniors to seniors is something we've really worked on, involving a lot of our juniors with our senior game days. We'll have under 6 or under 8 or under 10 sides warming up with our A-grade side and going in at half-time with them, stuff like that, to listen to what they say. So all those sort of things which make our junior players then want to become senior players down the track.
As I mentioned, obviously the A-grade, you've been happy with the A-grade, but as a club as a whole, you're running 4th in A-grade, you're running 2nd in reserve grade, and you're running 3rd in the under-19s. Obviously, as a whole, the whole club seems to be gelling together, don't they?
Yeah, I think so, and that probably comes in with what I was just saying with our juniors coming through. I think it's pretty evident when you look at the ladders, like the top 4 sides in A-grade are also the top 4 sides in reserve grade. I think depth's very important, especially at the A-grade level. Like the teams, like say Eastern Cobras, they're always thereabouts. And not losing by much, but they maybe struggle for a little bit of depth in reserve grade, which is something they're obviously building on over the years. But depth's an important thing. We're only playing an amateur comp at the end of the day, and you have a lot of turnover of injuries and work commitments and things like that. So to have that depth in your younger guys coming through, I think is really, really important.
I think the impressive thing is having your under-19s, getting kids there, especially at 19, 18, because I know across the board, not just Ipswich, I think from my time at Sunshine Coast, just getting players, especially like on a Sunday morning or lunchtime Sunday when the boys have probably been out and had too many drinks.
Yep.
But I guess seeing that you're getting that consistency is probably the icing on the cake.
Yeah, it is. It's something even that we've struggled with this year. We've played a lot of games. I sort of run water for the under-19 side, and we played a lot of games with 13 or 14 players, just the bare minimum. Injuries, work commitments. Stuff like that, but it is hard because they've moved out of that junior comp where mum and dad have paid their fees, dropped them off at training, picked them up from games, stuff like that. Now they've got jobs, they've got girlfriends, like you say, they've got parties on Saturday nights. So it does weed out the ones that are playing in the juniors to the ones that sort of move into 19s who are sort of serious about their football. But it is hard, and a lot of clubs do struggle with it, with fielding sides in that comp. So
Obviously, with the A grade there, you've had a lot of good performers throughout the years. Anyone that in particular that you think's been a standout? Like I've been impressed with Sam Martin. He's added a bit of grunt, bit of aggression to the forward pack.
Yeah, Sam Martin's been really good for us. He was a North junior who's now come back from the Jets, so he brings with him 8 to 10 years of Queensland Cup experience. You know, he's won premierships with the Jets and national championships. Richie Lowe's probably one, and Lewis Smith. They're our two halves, and they're both only in their early 20s. Richie had been away for a couple of years playing in the Toowoomba comp and for Valley's Dragons in reserve grade, and he's come back this year. So it was sort of a transition year for us because if you look at our side over the last few years, when we had the Josh Roberts and Stephen West in the halves, and we've had to move to having two young halves. I think at the start of the year we sort of sat down and thought this would be a bit of a rebuilding year. I think we had 8 or 9 regular A graders from last year that didn't return at the start of this year. So for us to be up in that sort of top 4 fighting for second spot with a lot of youth in the side, I think it's been a big plus.
You just mentioned a name that's obviously familiar and has been a big plus at the Tigers there, and Josh Roberts. He made his return last week after breaking his ankle Easter time, not this year, last year.
Yeah, Josh made he's come back in reserve grade last week. He's probably been close to playing for maybe the last 4 or 5 weeks, but he's just pulled up a little bit sore on it at training. But that's that's experience that you can't sort of buy. He's been really good with our young halves in A grade this year. He's been at training every week. He's been running water for the side, so to have that sort of experience out on the field with him has been a massive plus for us. And now to have him back, he played the whole game on Saturday night and came through unscathed. So hopefully bigger and better things for Josh.
Plus for you.
All right. Now, we'll have a look. Round 17 has just been completed over the weekend, and it looks like there's some huge results over this competition in the under-19s. Obviously, huge win for your boys, North, 58 over Rosewood. Rosewood, I guess, would be a tough side, though. They're still building, aren't they?
Yeah, they're still building. I've been really impressed with the Rosewood side. They showed up on Sunday with only the bare 13 players, but both times that we played them this year, they've never given up. Right at the end of that game, they were still busting their gut to try and get over the try line, so you can't fault their effort. All right,
and Goodna over Eastern Cobras, Bomber?
Yeah, well, obviously you can see by all 3 results, the 3 winning teams are the teams 1, 2 and 3. Obviously West End's a 4th team. They all want to improve. Obviously they played the Brothers team, which have only lost 1 game this year, so obviously they're the benchmark in this under-19 competition going forward.
All right, well, let's have a look at the competition ladder. Like you mentioned, the top 3 sides there. So it's still pretty congested ladder, obviously except for Rosewood. And from the sounds of it, like what you're saying, Jason, it's just them getting the numbers there to be able to compete. But again, you guys are 3rd and hotly contesting. If a couple of wins and a couple of losses, you could probably get in the top 1, top 2.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a pretty tough run home. We play West End this week, and then we finish with Brothers, Fassifern and Goodna. So in our last 4 rounds, we've got to play the other 3 top sides. So, and I think like the Eastern Cobras, looking at the draw, they have a bye still, and they play the 2 bottom sides yet. So it's not as cut and dried as what it maybe looks. We've really got to measure up and make sure that we're winning some of those games moving to the end of the season. All
right, we talked about reserve grade. Let's have a look at the results from the reserve grade competition. Again, this must be pleasing, just another win for you guys, and another big win too against Rosewood, which Bomber, I would almost assume Rosewood, that would be it for them.
Yeah, well, they're up in 4th position a couple of weeks ago. Obviously their last 2 losses there has pushed them down the ladder, and obviously a big loss on the weekend. They played at home, at North there, and obviously the Josh Roberts factor back in reserve grade got him going, and obviously it was a big win. It was a good win for Fassifern too, up there, who beat another top 4 side in Swifts.
And interesting that West End forfeited their game against Brothers.
Yeah, well, that's not good to see. We hate seeing forfeits in any grade, really. And obviously the West End this time of the year running down near the bottom of the ladder there. Obviously some players haven't been turning up, and obviously the West End club as a whole is obviously very disappointed. I know I was talking to the president there, and he was very disappointed. Not about paying the fine, it's more about the pride in the jersey, and if you forfeit a game, it doesn't look good at all.
All right, let's have a look at the competition ladder. Like I said, West End is down further down the bottom, but I guess top couple, obviously Brothers you'd assume have secured the minor premiership, but they're still hotly contesting those other games as well.
Yeah, well, like Jason see, they've got another tough road here. They've still got to play Fassifern and Brothers, who are running 1 and 3. They play West End this week, so you'd be thinking that's a win. So obviously, like I said, it looks cut and dry in a couple of positions, but it's probably not. And if you go all the way down the Rosewood, they've lost their last 2, but they're only 1 point out of 4th position.
I think that the loss that Swifts had on the weekend really, to Fassifern, helped Rosewood out keep in touch with that 4th spot too. So.
Well, that's what I mean. I probably went off a bit early thinking that Rosewood might have been out, but looking at the competition ladder, they're really only 1 point away, aren't they?
Yeah, and obviously it's in their hands now. I think they play Goodner at home this week, so that's a big game for them because both those teams are equal 1 point out of the 4.
All right, now let's have a look at the A-grade competition after round 17. Another draw. I mean, do I have to call for Golden Point again?
well, we haven't had too many draws in the A grade, but in the reserve grade this year in the 19s, we've had a fair few. So yeah, well, it's obviously good to see. Obviously, we don't have Golden Point, and obviously some of the games we wouldn't have the lights to turn on in some of them. So.
Any interesting clash here is the top of the table, Fassifern versus Swifts. That was probably a bit more of a blowout than what you'd expect. Yeah,
well, Fassifern at home now, very hard to beat anywhere, but at home they seem to just click a little bit more, and that's 1 versus 2, like you said.
All right, well, let's have a look at the draw now. Goodner and Eastern Cobras, 24 all. Interesting game, but Goodner wearing their Indigenous jersey, and they'll be auctioned off.
Yeah, they auctioned them off after the game. They've done this the last couple of years, and it's obviously makes a little bit of money for the club. Goodner debuted a couple of young fellas, AJ Sousa and Sione Fua there, so from their younger grades there. So obviously that's a bit of experience for them, and obviously going forward they're going to be a lot better with the experience.
Now, Goodner had a great first half, and then obviously dominated with territory and controlled the game a bit.
Yeah, well, they went into half-time 24-10. They'd scored 4 or 5 tries in the first half there, which got them basically their advantage, and I think most people thought that they would go on with it in the second half, but obviously it was a different Cobras team that came out. They showed a bit more aggression. They controlled the ball a lot better than the Cobras, and they got away with a try right near the end to snatch a draw.
Jason, one thing that's impressed me with this competition is the amount of speed that's in there. Like, you still got your old forwards and you still got the big boys, but there's just so much speed in this competition.
Yeah, I think it's a sign of the game and how it's moving forward these days. There's just so much talent out there. We played Cobras the week before, and at probably 7 or 8 different times of the game, we thought we had them, on the rack and done, and then somebody will make a break and streak away downfield and score. And they're very much a momentum side, the Cobras. So if you give them momentum and they get on a bit of a roll, they're very, very hard to stop.
And obviously, Cobras scoring twice late in the second half.
Yeah, well, the Cobras, John Leota, they've been the heartbreak kids this year. They've lost by a couple of points. They've lost by under 4 or 6 points in about 6 games this year. So they've finally got some points out of a game there, and he'll be happy there. They've had 2 very encouraging games. They lost to Norse by 2 points the week before, and then obviously this game here where they've got away with a draw. So they're going to be a danger side for the next couple of weeks for some of them top sides.
And I guess that comes up to having games like this that go down to the wire can really test your character as well. Could you take a lot out of it, or you could get down in the dumps and think, oh, what's the point?
Yeah, well, like I said, it's an 80-minute game, isn't it? So you have to play for 80 minutes. You can't play for 75 minutes there because it's easy to score a try or 2 tries in the last bit.
Yeah, I think it's pretty evident across the comp, like even West End, who are one of the bottom sides on the ladder that haven't won a lot of games. They're full of youth and sort of exuberance, and if you click off for 5 or 10 minutes against them, they can score 3 or 4 tries just like that. So I don't think there's any real game in the comp anymore where you sort of get up by 15 or 16 or 20 points and feel comfortable.
All right, well, let's have a look at the top of the table clash. It was Fassifern and Swifts. Again, like I said, the result really surprised me for a game that was 1 versus 2.
Yeah, well, like you mentioned earlier there, it's a speed game these days, and the people with the most speed is the Fassifern Bombers. They've got Lavini in the centres there. They've got Blander Barvu, the PNG fella at the fullback, and Ellie Carter on the ring and wing there. They've got 3 genuine speeds, so they get in the open. I don't think there's too many people that can catch them, and speed scores tries.
It does. I guess is that we just saw there was a huge hole in the defence, even though it was a missed tackle. There was a hole created. Is that something that when you've got a speed side, Jason, you've got to make sure your defence is on par and everyone's talking?
Yeah, I think Fassifern are obviously the benchmark of the comp on the back of, obviously they won 11 games straight, but if anybody in the comp can figure out how to stop their back line, I'd like to buy that formula, because they're a side you can sort of compete with for 20 or 30 minutes of the first half, and then suddenly you're down by 20 points at half time and you don't even know what's happened. So
That was just, that play there just showed it's not even just speed, that was just a beautiful line run by a front rower and get the ball away to your back man.
Yeah, well, that was David Loco. He'd played internationals for PNG, and off to they lost their genuine hooker in Carly out there, but his brother's deputised now in there, and he's going just as good. He mightn't have the physicality, but he's got the speed, got their nous, and he's got the knowledge. So.
And I guess with this game, Fassifern looked like they were in control pretty much the whole game.
Yeah, they started well and all that there, and when they get the ball out the back line there, it's, you know, where the Fijians play and the PNG play, they just play with flair, and which gets them a lot of tries, and they back up and speed.
11 straight in a row, that's a huge achievement for the Bombers, isn't it?
Yeah, well, they lost their first 3 games of the season. They don't get a lot of these inputs into around round 4 or 5, so they just play. Obviously, their depth is really tested early in the season, but then after that, when they come in there, they're a very hard side to beat.
Now, it was an interesting battle of the forwards. I guess we always talk about that forwards are the ones that really dominate the games. You know, the backs score the points, but the forwards lay the platform.
Yeah, well, that's it. They've got the forwards too, Junior Yamby, David Loco in there, and which all they do is just hit it up all the time. Just keep taking the hit ups there, and then while they're going forward there, they get it out the backs and they score the tries.
All right, we'll have a look at Brothers and West End. This is an interesting clash. It was a huge victory to Brothers, 56-16. Yeah,
well, Brothers came to play in this game there. They scored the first 3 tries in the first 20 minutes there, and it was 18-0, and it looked like it just could have been anything. But then West End started to get a little bit more ball, and a couple of their youngsters, Zion Towers, he scores a try, and Tupu Lasati scores a try. And they go into half time, and the score's 18-10.
Is that something that it was good to see, like we were talking about before, with having junior players and young players, that they still have that, they didn't just collapse in a heap with the scoreline?
Yeah, it is. It's one of the things that comes with the territory, though, when you do have a young squad, is the consistency and being able to play the whole 80 minutes, or being able to back up week after week with the same performances. But at the end of the day, if you can keep that core group together, then they're getting invaluable learning experience out there playing A grade at their age. So.
And I think it shows, like, at half time it was like 18-10, and that's where you normally find with a young side or an unfit side that they just can't play that 80 minutes.
Yeah, well, the second half there was just too much grab, and you'll see by the highlights there, they score a lot of tries just straight up the middle. Just the forwards, just obviously a little bit lazy. I don't know whether they're unfit, just lazy. You just got to do your job. So, and if you're doing your job there, the man beside you, hopefully he's doing his job, and there's no holes. But this is Lockie Brook. He scores in the first minute of the second half. He scored 4 tries in the second half alone, coming off the bench.
I was going to say, that show, like, you wonder where the mentality is there, because first minute of the game, fitness isn't a play. Like, you've just had a 10-minute break. I mean, but I guess rugby league's not a hard game. It's run it straight.
Yeah, a lot of people do try and overcomplicate it, but at the end of the day, it's pretty simple. You hold onto the ball and you tackle. But that's where it comes in with that youth. I think a little bit of the combinations and the communication with the guy inside you and trusting that person. But West End's a side that's obviously building. They've been strong in the under-19s for the last 2 years, and a few of those players are now getting experience in A grade. So
I assume that this is Brothers sending a message out to Fassifern as well.
Yeah, well, they're on second on the ladder now, so that's it. They've told Fassifern that we're ready to have a crack at you.
All right. Well, let's have a look at the competition ladder after round 17. This should be, I guess, this will be a bit happy for Fassifern, so it's starting to actually get some points.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's probably nearly guaranteed them the minor premiership now. A couple of losses, obviously, it won't there, but the bigger battle is 2, 3 and 4, 41, 41, 40. And all 3 of them teams will be looking to finish in second spot, where it gives you that double chance, like I said earlier, Jason.
Well, is it just a double chance, or is it also the home ground advantage as well, Jason, to be playing at home?
All the finals are played at the Oval anyway, so there's no real home ground advantage. I think it's more that double chance. Not that you go into a finals game expecting to lose, but especially for us, I think, with a young side and a lot of youth in our side going into a sudden death sort of elimination final, you just don't know how they're going to hold up in that sort of situation.
All right, well, now let's have a look at this week's player profile.
Hey, my name's Matthew Sledge. I'm 21 years old and I play for the Fast Fur Bombers. I started playing football out at the Lowood Stags when under sixes. My best memory so far is probably winning the under 19s grand final. That's a pretty good memory. I started playing football just to be around my mates and get to do something on the weekend. The tips I'd like to give is just to get in there and have a real go. Just have fun with your mates and just get around each other. I'd definitely like to be signed by the Cowboys. I've always gone for them my whole life since living up there. Definitely Jacob Lindsay, definitely the greatest player going around Ipswich Rugby League. Locally, Jacob Lindsay is probably the greatest player I've ever seen play. And then for the NRL, definitely Jonathan Thurston. I'd like to just keep playing footy, really. Hopefully no injuries and then just keep playing footy.
Thank you to Matthew Sledge there from the Fast Fur Bombers. Do you hear a lot of chat from the boys from doing these segments?
Yeah, I think they find it a little bit of light-hearted fun. Obviously, sometimes an opportunity to have a go at one of their teammates as well.
All right, well, let's have a look at this weekend's games. It's round 18 of the Rugby League Ipswich competition. Some interesting clashes here. Obviously, the huge one again this week for Fast Fur and Bombers.
Yeah, well, obviously the Bombers brothers games. Obviously, North and them will be hoping Fassifern just keep winning, really, and because if brothers win, obviously they keep moving up there. But like we said earlier, if you get North, they're playing West End at West End, who always play a lot better at home. They had Goodner 22-10 down and looked like a victory before just folding. So that's not going to be an easy game. And obviously the Cobras playing at home.
We always see generally a good breakdown between Saturday and Sunday games. Obviously 3 Saturday games here. Is there a preference as an administrator? If you Sunday afternoon, I mean, I know Sunday afternoon's traditional, but you get a better turnout on a Saturday?
I think given the fact that it's a winter game, the Sunday afternoon games are better for crowd numbers and through the gate and stuff like that. Saturday night games, if you get a freezing cold 2 or 3 degree night, not many people want to stand outside and watch football, so you do tend to lose a little bit of a crowd. From a player's point of view, I think they prefer the Saturday night games because it gives them that extra day to recover before they go back to work on Monday. But I think we finished the year for their last 6 games. I think 4 or 5 of them are on Saturday night. So.
All right, and I promise, Bomber, I won't tip Rosewood this week, and hopefully they'll win because I've been tipping them every week. So
yeah, well, they actually did beat Goodner last time they played, so they'll be looking for another performance. Otherwise, that might nearly be the end of them.
All right, well, that's all the time we have for After the Addy Local Edition this week. As per usual, Bomber, thank you very much.
No, it's been a pleasure getting the games out there again, and obviously good to see you in the blue jersey. And
yeah, I'll be wearing the maroon one.
Be the last time you wear it, I know. So make sure you give it back.
And also, Jason, thank you very much for your time for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and I think Bomber would look great in a Maroons jersey one day too.
He will. He would.
Maybe next year if you put up a better effort.
All right, for more updates, just head to our Facebook page, Phoenix Media Hub. I'm Terry Pascoe, and thanks for watching.